Adrian Hale had never lost a deal in his life at least, not one that mattered. People described him as ruthless, brilliant, and terrifyingly efficient. The kind of billionaire who commanded entire boardrooms with a single raised eyebrow. But tonight, inside the towering glass hotel in Silvergate City, all the control he was known for was slipping through his fingers. The London investors had flown in expecting perfection. Instead, they got chaos. His legal team was late, his presentation files had corrupted, and worst of all, the one document that proved his acquisition rights, the one sheet of paper the investors insisted on seeing, was missing. It wasn't supposed to be possible. Dorian never misplaced anything. He didn't even misplace his emotions. But tonight, he stood in the executive suite with his tie loosened, his jaw clenched, and an uncharacteristic tremor of panic tightening his chest. "Sir," his assistant Jonah whispered, "we've torn the entire suite apart. That document is gone." Dorian's voice was low, deadly calm. "It can't be gone. It's the only original signed copy." The investors waited downstairs in the conference hall, sipping imported whiskey and exchanging looks that said Adrian Hale is slipping. His reputation, his project, his empire, all hung on the thread of a single missing document. He ran a hand through his dark hair, frustrations simmering. "Check the hallway, check the lobby, check security footage. I don't care if you wake the entire hotel." Jonah nodded and hurried out. The door clicked shut. For the first time in years, Dorian felt something unfamiliar, fear. Not fear of failure, he wouldn't allow that, but fear of being powerless. He wasn't used to variables he couldn't control. And that's when the soft sound of a cleaning cart squeaking outside caught his attention. He opened the suite door. A young woman stood there with a mop in hand, petite, wearing the navy housekeeping uniform, her auburn hair tied in a loose bun, wisps escaping around her face. Her name tag read Lina Moretti. She looked up, startled, her brown eyes warm but nervous. "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to disturb you." "You're not disturbing me," Dorian said mechanically, though his tone remained tense. "Have you seen a white folder anywhere on this floor? It has a silver crest on the front." Lina blinked, thinking, "A white folder with a crest?" She paused, then nodded slowly. I might have." Dorian's heart jolted. "Where?" She hesitated, gripping the mop harder. "I found it near the service elevator. I thought a guest dropped it. I was going to take it to the front desk after I finished this hallway." "Where is it now?" he cut in. No patience left. "In my cart," she said. "I kept it safe because it looked important." Dorian didn't wait. He strode to her cart, rifling through the top shelf until he saw it, the exact folder he'd spent an hour searching for. He pulled it out, exhaling a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Lina stepped back, a little startled. Is that what you needed?" He stared at her, not in annoyance, not in irritation, but in shock. This stranger, this maid, had just saved his entire career from what would have become a global headline humiliation. "Yes," he finally said, voice rougher than he intended. "You have no idea how much." Lina smiled lightly, a small, kind expression that softened the harsh lighting in the hallway. "I'm just glad I didn't send it to Lost and Found." He glanced at her more carefully now. She looked young, maybe mid-20s, with gentle features and a tiredness she tried to hide behind professionalism. But there was something else, too, something resilient, something quietly brave. "Come with me," Dorian said suddenly. Lina blinked. "Sir, what? I can't leave my shift." "I'll speak to the manager," he replied. "You're coming downstairs. You're the only person who can prove I didn't tamper with this document." She hesitated again. Did I do something wrong?" "No," he paused. "You might be the only one who did something right tonight." He strode down the hallway, and after a nervous moment, Lena followed, pushing her cart out of the walkway and hurrying to catch up. She stayed 3 steps behind him, as if afraid to walk beside someone so powerful. They reached the conference hall, where the investors murmured impatiently. Dorian entered with an authority that silenced the room instantly. Lena hovered near the door, unsure whether she belonged inside a space filled with expensive suits, diamond watches, and people who would likely never remember her face. "Gentlemen," Dorian announced, "I have the original document you requested." The investors turned. One of them, a gray-haired man with an accent sharpened by skepticism, lifted a brow. "And where, Mr. Vale, did this miraculous document come from? Your assistant insists it vanished." Dorian motioned to Lena. "From her." Dozens of eyes snapped toward her. Lena stiffened under the weight of wealthy scrutiny. "She found it near the service elevator," Dorian continued. "If not for her honesty and quick judgment, tonight's deal would be over." A ripple of murmurs filled the room. The lead investor stepped closer to Lena. "Is this true, young lady?" She swallowed, nodding. "Yes, sir. I thought it belonged to a guest, so I kept it safe." "Why didn't you open it?" the investor pressed. Lena looked confused. "Because it wasn't mine." Something in the investor's expression softened. He turned back to Dorian. "It seems your staff has stronger ethics than most executives we meet." Dorian's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close. The investor signed the document. The room erupted in applause. The deal worth nearly $800 million was saved. Lena stepped back again, overwhelmed. She didn't belong in this room, not among these people. She just wanted to go back to her hallway, her mop, her quiet anonymity. But Dorian approached her, and this time, when he looked at her, his gaze wasn't sharp with tension. It was softened with something close to gratitude. "You just saved my entire career," he said quietly. Lena shook her head. "I only did what anyone would." "No," he said firmly. "Most people wouldn't have." She lifted her eyes to his. "You're welcome." But then her breath hitched suddenly, her hand going to her stomach, not in pain, but as though something inside her startled. Dorian frowned. "Are you all right?" Lena blinked fast, panic creeping into her features. I didn't expect to feel this dizzy." She stepped back, gripping a chair for support. Dorian reached out instinctively. "Sit down, now." Her breathing quickened. I just need a moment, I'm fine." But her eyes slid toward the folder still in his hand. And in that split second, Dorian saw something in her expression, recognition, fear, and heartbreak. He froze. "Lena," he said slowly, "you've seen this document before, haven't you?" Her lips parted in a silent gasp, and Dorian realized this wasn't an accident. This wasn't coincidence. Lena Moretti hadn't just delivered the thing he needed. She had delivered the one truth he had no idea he was missing. Lena's hands trembled as she sank into the nearest chair. She never intended for Dorian to notice. She never intended for their worlds to collide this hard, this fast. But the moment she saw the document in his hands, the crest, the signatures, the dates, her heart stopped. She knew it too well. She knew who had been involved, and she knew what had been taken from her family because of it. Dorian crouched in front of her, forcing her gaze to meet his. "Tell me what you know." Her breath quivered. "I wasn't supposed to talk about it. My family was threatened." "By who?" She looked at the embossed crest again. Her voice cracked. "Your former partner, Elias Draxton, the man who disappeared with everything that wasn't his." Dorian's blood ran cold. Elias Draxton wasn't just a former partner. He was the man Dorian had been hunting for 2 years. The man who nearly destroyed the foundation of Veil Dynamics, who vanished with stolen assets and left behind a trail of legal fire. "You knew him?" Dorian asked. Lena nodded. Tears pricked her eyes. "He used to rent a room at my mother's house. He pretended to be kind. He owed rent. He owed taxes. And then when we found a sealed folder he left behind, he came back furious. He threatened us if we ever spoke of it." Dorian's voice lowered. "What was in the folder?" "Proof," Lena whispered. "Proof that he forged signatures. Proof he stole intellectual property. Proof he was planning to frame you." Dorian's heart pounded once, hard. It wasn't just a lost deal tonight. It was the missing piece of a betrayal that had nearly destroyed him. "And you've carried this alone?" he whispered. Lena wiped her cheeks. "I'm nobody, Mr. Vale. I clean rooms. I didn't think anyone would believe me." Dorian exhaled, long and shaken. "I believe you." She looked up, startled. "You didn't just save a deal tonight," Dorian said softly. "You saved the truth." Silence settled around them, a different kind now. Not heavy, not tense, connected, real. He stood and offered his hand. "Come with me. There's more you know, and I intend to hear all of it." Lena hesitated only a moment before placing her small, trembling hand into his. Dorian lifted her gently. Not because he needed her, but because he finally understood. She was the one thing he didn't know he needed. And maybe even more dangerously, she was the one person capable of rebuilding the pieces of a life he thought had already been shattered.